yes, yes.
Hey,
What's up? Hello, hello. Good to see you.
good to see you too. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm excited. I haven't been on live in like a little minute, so I'm excited.
Welcome to North Carolina.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm about to consider myself a little resident. I've been liking it so far, so it's
Look,
been
welcome to
good.
good old North Carolina. Please introduce yourself to everybody. Please just introduce yourself.
Of course. Well, hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. I am Braxton Simpson, a recent graduate of Tennessee State University. I wow, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the CEO of Braxton Simpson Enterprises, where we take people from passion to purpose. I'm a content creator, an influencer, pretty much everything you name it. Very, very passionate about a lot of things that I feel like matter so much, and that is policy, specifically policy that impacts our people. And so
Mm,
that's what I devote my life to.
mm. So, congratulations to you as well.
Thank
Um,
you.
we met last year
We
at
did.
the Kings and Queens Conference. Thank you to Justin Wade for inviting me. Um, And we got to be in a breakout room that was really cool and interesting because it was about politics.
Hmm.
And what I got to find out was a lot of y'all was in politics. So
Yes.
I was shell shocked because I'm like, wait a minute, these kings and queens political science. I'm
You're
thinking,
right.
wait, nursing. I'm thinking nursing, mathematics, education,
Right.
and y'all just no, we political science. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and,
Yeah.
and
Got to get into the
it
policy.
yeah, it threw me different because my mindset would have thought, nah, they just not
Yeah, but it's
political science
crazy.
at all.
You'd be surprised. Like I have so many friends that are actually going to law school now after graduating, and they were actually university queens as well. But yeah, I mean, for me, I guess my path to policy was a little bit different. I always kind of had like this activism kind of like streak in me that
Hmm.
started at a young age back in high school when my principal was the first Black principal to actually like take charge and lead in our school system. And of course, they did her a little dirty, and so that kind of just spearheaded a lot in me. And when I went to school, I still just didn't know if that was really the path for me. I ended up pursuing agriculture, which is the career I am in now. But yeah, I started doing research and found like my passion for agriculture was simply to feed people who can't feed themselves, which typically look like people like us.
Mm.
And that's what made me realize policy has to play a role in food access and equity, and marginalization is definitely impacted by food access and policy. So that's kind of how I got into policy.
It's so funny that you say that because I left education. I was actually a teacher. And what I saw I was like, mm-mm. Even from the teaching side, people was like, well, how much you getting paid? Not enough.
Right.
And then as a black man walking into that school, they like, wait, you teaching 4 year olds, dude? Wait a minute, bruh.
Hmm.
Wait, hold on. You a black dude in early childhood and you teaching 4 year olds. That don't add up. Where
Yeah.
you come and everybody where you come from? And I said, hold on, this shouldn't be like this.
Right.
And when I saw that, I said, mm-mm, I don't like the way not that I'm the way that I'm treated, but also the way that I'm received from people. I said this got to be changed because as black men, we should be appreciated to go into an early child care facility and
Right.
teach
And
in a
teach and do what you
classroom.
do what you were trained to do. Right.
Exactly. And so when I went and decided to go to politics, everybody was like, "Why are you going to politics?" Well, one, I don't get paid enough, and the shocking, sad truth is, it's still racism in education.
Yeah.
And,
I
and
mean,
that's the sad truth.
Yeah, I mean, there's racism in every single system in this country, you know. So it's up to us to continue pushing the needle to uproot every single system until, you know, justice is served every place that it's, you know, every place that injustice is rooted. So, yeah.
So please tell me the wonderful sorority that you're a part of.
Yes, I am a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated.
Okay, so I gotta ask this because it's one of the topics that I put on. Who are some of the great women that impacted your life, not only in your sorority, but throughout your journey of life, of where
Yeah.
you are now?
So that is crazy that you say that. And wow. So I probably would I'll probably tell you three people that have impacted my life, that have been women. So I will say, first and foremost, my mother. My
Yes,
mother, yes, first and foremost, my mother. My mother is,
Mama.
yes, mama. Mama is the reason that I am just the woman that I am today. She's introduced me to so much. She's given me see so much. She's shown me what it means to be strong, to be diligent, to be persistent, and to go for anything that you want in life. And that's probably the best thing about my mom. My mom, she's super loving, but she's hard on me too. And I think that's really what's pushed me to my fullest potential. My mama. And my mama's a go-getter too. My mama's an entrepreneur. My mom was actually a political science major in school. My mama actually ended up being in education. And she just has so much good. Yes, it's crazy, right?
Okay, okay.
Yes. So, my mama, I just get so much from my mama. Love my mama.
Me and your mama
Another,
did the opposite.
yeah, y'all did the opposite. Y'all did the do. Yeah, y'all switched it up. So, then I would say actually my principal that I was just speaking of from high school really was a monumental woman in my life, because I saw what she tried to do for Black students and allow Black students to see themselves in somebody. You know, for us growing up through the school system, the only person that we saw that looked like us in a place of leadership was nobody. And the only people that we did see were, you know, lunch ladies and the janitorial staff, which nothing's wrong with those jobs. But that's all that we saw on a daily basis. And that's what we believed that we could amount up to. And, you know, that was a problem for me that I didn't realize was a problem until I had somebody in my face that was doing more and encouraged me to learn more, do more, and become more, right? And so, grateful for her and, you know, the presence and the role that she played, just by simply being herself, which I know was hard because of the kickback and the trials and tribulations that she faced. I'll also say, just to add on to that, my president, and she's the president of our sorority and the president of TSU, Dr. Glover. She's been a monumental role model in my life as well. She is a go-getter. She is a boss. She does not play. She is the definition of a woman with ambition, and that women can have ambition and do more and become more. Because she just wears so many hats and she wears them so well. So I aspire to be like that one day. And then lastly, of course, I have to give a shout out to, you know, our Vice President-elect, Kamala Harris. Just going back to the idea of representation, Charles, that idea of representation, being a woman in political science, being able to see someone serve as a senator in the first this and the first that, and then, you know, work her way up so much so to get into this role where, you know, she's representing so many women from so many different walks of life. And just to know that I went to an HBCU, that I'm a part of the organization that I'm a part of, that I have aspirations to work and be in Congress one day, that it is very possible for me to get there, first of all, and then actually to grace the biggest stage in the country. So, yeah, those are some of my inspirations.
So it's funny that you say that because just for a sidebar, I was talking to one of my good friends the other day, and he said, "Man, what is it like as a black man going to work?" And I kind of thought for a second, and I said, "You go to work with a job. We go to work with not just a job, but with our community saying, do this, don't say that, do that. Make sure you stand on this." And I said, we have all of that weight on us on top of being
Every
us.
time we walk in, yeah.
Exactly. And I said, that's the difference. And he said, is it pressure? I said, every day. I said, because you first have to be black.
Right.
You realize and look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a black man, I'm a black woman in a society. Some may accept me and some don't. And then you go to this job that may look at you and say, wait, you a black woman in political science?
Mm-hmm.
What you doing up in here? And seeing you walk in those buildings, I know some of them would look at you and be like, what's she coming in here? What's she coming in here? And just giving you that face, and you just like, okay, y'all think I don't know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I stand firm on what I'm talking about. And he was like, man, I feel so bad for you. And I said, no. Don't feel bad. I said, this is the obligation that we have.
Right.
As black people that go to our jobs. And when you talk about those lunch ladies, I think about those being my aunties when I got in trouble, especially when you got in trouble in school. Boy, what you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you
community.
talking?
There's that sense of community there. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to throw out a couple women. I just started thinking of women. And the first thing that you think about, Madam C.J. Walker.
Oh, what is the first thing that I think of?
Yeah, Madam C.J. Walker.
Trailblazer, entrepreneur. She stuck her neck out there and tried something and dared to be different, even in a realm that wasn't necessarily always accessible to her. But somebody has to be the first, and somebody has to get out there. And she inspires me for sure, just being a black woman-owned business, a black entrepreneur, that it is possible. It is possible to reach higher heights than you could ever imagine. You just got to put yourself out there, and, adversity is going to come, but you just got to keep pushing. So, yeah, love her.
Okay, I'm gonna get one that Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama. The first thing that comes to mind is the first. And I say that because, she was the first, she was the first. She paved the way. And, without her, a lot of what we're seeing right now wouldn't necessarily be possible. And she's also she's fearless, You can't operate out of a spirit of fear. She was fearless. And they dogged her from the ground up and still do, but she just kept on. She kept trying. She kept pushing forward. She kept operating out of a space of optimism to ultimately deliver what she said she was going to do and what her husband said he was going to do for this country. So, yeah, I'll say the first, but fearless too. It's a word for her.
I'm going to give you a name that is coming up, not just in athletics, but in the political realm. Simone Biles, the Olympic athlete.
Oh, Simone Biles.
Yeah, How do you feel about her?
I love her. Simone Biles, she
been whooping tail since she was 17.
She's been whooping tail because she has 25.
17?
Yes. She has a man. And she literally, she has 25 Olympic gold medals.
You know what? Here's my thing. And I was telling somebody this the other day. If a 17-year-old come up and beat me in my own sport, I know it's time for me to quit. Just write me my last check and I'm out. Hey, you ain't got I was like, y'all, she been 17. Y'all, she's 17. And she now 24 and she's still
And
whooping y'all.
she has four never she has four like tricks, whatever they are, flips, whatever, that nobody has ever done before. Like they've never seen it. Like she made it up. They're called the Simone Biles. Like she's lit.
So I'm just like, and see, when I watch her
She's
interviews,
an innovator.
yes, I watched her interview after she did the last championship, and she was talking about, I'm ready to go back to school. I'm ready for the Olympics, but my education is important to me. And I said, she gets it. And then reporters was like, so how you feel about the Olympics? I'm going to prepare for them, but I need to be studying my books. And I was like, y'all, she don't care about these Olympics because she understands this going to end eventually.
This is going to end. This probably gonna be her last go round, because by the time the next one roll around, she's gonna be pushing 30,
Yeah, so I mean,
but she gets it because as Black people, we can't just be a one-trick pony, right? Like we have to have multiple things going on to stay up, to stay moving, to stay afloat. And so yeah, she gets it. She understands this is great, but I gotta have my education too. Because I have more I gotta offer this world when this journey ends. So that's great.
So
I love to hear that.
I gotta ask this, cause the women in your sorority, how have they made an influence to you? Because people ask me, well, you in Phi Beta Sigma, how I said it influenced you some way because you wouldn't be a part of it, you wouldn't have joined it, you wouldn't have saw insight into it, the people that you met that helped you learn the journey to get to where you're at. But the women in your sorority, tell me about them. Tell me how they influenced you.
They have really been a rock for me. So I was initiated in spring of 2018. And the amount of opportunities, the amount of access that I've had, it's like when you enter into this new world of sisterhood and service, you're exposed to so much more that you didn't realize that you needed. And I'm sure you know, but that you didn't realize that you needed, that you needed so much. And I mean, the amount of opportunities, like I am a lot of who I am today because of the organization that I'm a part of and the women that have molded me young and old. And, just have taken a keen interest in making sure that I get to where I'm supposed to be and reach my ultimate potential with no expectation of reciprocation. Just out of a willingness and a heart for service to ensure that, I can be the best I can be. From trainings to, sisterhood, sisterly relations to, the whole nine. From line sisters to pro fights to neos to, some of our seasoned sisters. They've all been great. They've all been great. It's been the opportunity of a lifetime to be a part of this organization, especially at a time such as this. And we just have women just doing amazing things in every realm. Every realm. Politics, science, law, everything, education. We are winning like everywhere. And I love to see it. It's inspiring. And especially as our younger, sisters looking up and seeing what we can be in individuals like the Vice President of the United States of America. We have sisters that are in the United States Congress. We have sisters that are in state seats and positions. We have sisters all over the world, like literally, literally. CEOs, just it's so inspiring, and mentorship is such a big thing for us. And yeah, it's just great. I can't even really put into words like how much it has impacted me and changed me. It's just been very monumental.
So I got a two-part question for you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of gonna make it into a two-part question because I know you're gonna get this question every time you go speak, every time you do a one-on-one. But what is something that you could tell an incoming freshman that's going into college? And how has an HBCU impacted you in your life?
Yeah, so that is a great question that I do get often. But I would say that number one thing that I always tell incoming freshmen, transfer students, anybody that's just in a period of change and starting something new, is to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You know,
Say
you
that
do
one
not
more time.
get comfortable being uncomfortable. That is the key. This is an opportunity for you to start, turn over a new leaf, to start something new, to start fresh. You don't have to be who you always were, and you can reinvent yourself so many different times. And going to college is one of those times where it's just so shifting. And, you know, you just have to get out of your comfort zone to grow. When I tell you, I came to school and didn't have no type of agriculture background, but I did know I was passionate about business. Ended up just trying agribusiness because I wanted to concentrate it, and it ended up being great for me. It's the reason I am now where I am now, you know, a full-time career after school. You know, it's just crazy how far you will go and how much you will grow when you get outside of your comfort zone. I mean, literally did so many things I never thought I would do, like literally living in Iowa and Nebraska and working in cornfields, soybean fields, doing research, doing all these things that I just never saw for myself. And because I did those, because I got out of my comfort zone, other opportunities present itself. But when you limit yourself to a bubble or to a certain group of friends or a certain aspect or just a certain group, you miss out on all that life has to offer. So just be okay with trying something new and sticking with it, and you'll see how many opportunities flow from it. So that is the best advice that I can give to a freshman, is to get outside of your comfort zone. And the second part was, what was the second part?
The impact of the HBCU on your life.
Woo! Yeah, so HBCU changed my life. Tennessee State University changed my life. Tennessee State University is exactly where I needed to be when I left school. So I mentioned a little bit earlier to y'all some of the trials that I had in high school. And, you know, based on what I told you guys, you know, ultimately it was just very difficult being a Black girl at that time, and trying to figure out where I needed to be and what my place was in this world. And when I got to TSU, I knew at HBCU was where I needed to be, and I ended up at Tennessee State. But being at TSU is exactly where I needed to be. The love, the care, the devotion, the family, the community that you receive at an HBCU is something that you cannot receive anywhere else on the planet. You're just not a number at an HBCU too. So you're a person with life going on, with people who actually care. We talked about the lunch ladies. We talked about faculty, staff. All of them people become your aunties, uncles. It's just a real big family community, but also we work. It's challenging. They're going to take you to the next step, and take you to the next phase of your life. So yeah, I mean, HBCU has just been so great for me. TSU has been there when I've been up, when I've been down. It's, you know, loved on me, giving me the tough love that I needed, you know, care for me, and it's molded me and just to the woman that I am today. I mean, I came in literally a little girl who didn't really have a clue of what I wanted to do or where I wanted to be or where I wanted to go, but I did know that I wanted to be great. And what TSU just spat me out like a couple months ago. And I've just seen so much growth, you know. I found what I'm passionate about. It's helped me hone in on some of the things that I love, like speaking. Make me a better speaker. It's put me in front of people that I never thought I'd be in front of, put me in rooms I never thought my feet would enter into. It's top tier experience. 100% recommend. Any HBCU, but of course Tennessee State University, Nashville, Tennessee.
You know, you making my heart warm right now. Because, you know, I'm not going to say I'm going to say society have this misconception of an HBCU. And having family members that have went to HBCUs and seeing the influence that it had on them, and I'm like, nah, it ain't. When people say, "Oh, all HBC, all y'all do is party and drink and smoke, and all y'all do is stroll and go to the cafeteria," and I'm like,
We
nah,
play, but we work harder.
I was like, that's far from the truth. I said, to be honest with you, the HBCUs have always struggled. We've always had our struggles. We talk about the issues that's going on in the world. They're right there at the HBCU because we live there.
Because we
Those
live
are
it,
the
yeah.
things. Yeah, I said those are the things. We just ain't chilling in our dorm. We go to class. We got people with 4.0s and 3.0s
Yeah.
and getting jobs right out of college. And like you said, going to law school. It's not just we
Let's
just
not
there to
forget,
have a good
HBCUs
time.
produce the best and the brightest in every single field.
So let's get to the hot topic that I'm excited to get on, because that's going right into my next topic here, and that's politics of today.
Okay.
Uh, and let's get into the first one that I think hits me home, because if we met, like I said, we met last year,
Yeah.
and we met during the most perfect time in our country
Mm-hmm.
because it was right after George Floyd.
Yeah.
The Kings and Kings conference was a few weeks right after George Floyd, and it was still
Yeah.
emotional to all of us. So my first question is, after a year, after sitting on it, what's your thoughts, what's your feelings, especially after the verdict that we got, but still seeing the injustice that we
Yeah.
still see? What's your thoughts and your
Yeah.
feelings?
So, let me just start by saying that was just a very heavy moment. I feel like for everybody, everybody, especially Black people in America, just to realize, um, I think there's commonly a misconception that we've just come so far. But if you ever hear about the new Jim Crow, you realize that mass incarceration is like what we're dealing with right now. But we've seen this
Mm-hmm.
before. We've seen this in the form of slavery. Slavery just continues to reinvent itself.
That's good.
So, yeah, I mean, how I feel. So actually, it's crazy. We had a distinguished lecturer this year at TSU. Al Sharpton was our teacher. So he was a teacher of mine. And so we actually got to speak with him the day after the verdict. He was there with the family, and everything. So we kind of got a little firsthand, insight. But, I mean, I am glad that the family received the justice from the legal system that they deserved. But what was very saddening to me was that we all woke up on the day of the verdict afraid to hope,
Mm.
really afraid to hope. I remember waking up and just being so uneasy all day because although I realized, and I think we all saw what happened, it was just because of the trauma that we as Black people face every single day in America, we were afraid to hope. I was afraid to hope that that the system would do the right thing because we've been betrayed by the system so many times. So it made me very afraid to hope. And so, of course, when the verdict was reached, I just bust out into tears because I just, thank you, God, because Black people needed to see the legal system do the right thing. And thank you, God, most importantly, for the family who, we talk about George Floyd and, he's become a cornerstone of a movement here, all across the world. But at the end of the day, that's still somebody's dad. That's still somebody's brother. That's still somebody's
Mm-hmm.
man, you know what I'm saying? Somebody's son. And so they're still missing a very, important piece in their life, as commercialized as people try to make it, that's still a family member, somebody that's gone. So we have to continue to make sure we humanize these stories, our stories, because I think a lot of times we can become so desensitized to death because we've seen it so much, but it's important to
Mm-hmm.
keep that human factor in it all. Now, right now, how I'm feeling, we just have so much work to do. We have so much work to do. I mean, even, today they talked about how, and this is something we worked on. I was a legislative intern for this last session in Tennessee. And, you know, we were able to get past like the Juneteenth, you know, observation. And, you know, that's great for, I feel like for states to start to recognize those things. And the U.S. Senate passed it recently. But then it's like, you think about symbolism, right? So it's like you pass the Juneteenth law, but you pass it as an observation, but in the same breath, you know, the critical race theory is like a big thing right now, you know? Like,
Yes.
how are we passing laws that say we can observe the freedom of enslaved Black people, but we can't teach about those enslaved Black people and the struggles that they faced? So, I mean, it's not making sense to me. It's not making sense to me. So we have a long way to go. I just don't like for policy to be used as symbolism, especially when when it comes to our liberation, right? Ultimately, it sounds great. It's a great step, but where's the substance behind the step? Where's the substance behind the passing of the law? You can't pass a Juneteenth law without, you know, addressing critical race theory and what we're teaching our students.
And you know, as you say that, I'm sitting there thinking about how I was feeling like last year. And I think I actually said this in our small group where we met. I said, y'all, I'm pissed off because here's the conclusion of it. We've come to find out we don't have a seat at the table. As much as they say we don't have a seat at the table, we didn't. And we saw that. And one of the things that I tell people is if you want to talk about race and how it fits it, you got to talk about everything. You got to talk about the truth that happened in this country. And what I got to see was it was becoming uncovered.
Yeah.
A lot of the truth that we knew that we was educated on in our households started to come uncovered, and we started looking and saying, "Oh, this for real? This really happened."
Yeah.
Y'all really manipulated Nat Turner to read the Bible for something. Like y'all really did this stuff. And people are like, oh well, we don't want to talk about this. But now you have to. And you have to talk about these things. You can't talk.
Yeah, and it's not fair to choose, you know. I feel like it's unfair to say, oh, well, we don't want to learn about this. This makes our kids uncomfortable and, you know, blah, 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 blah. You know, everybody's going to have their certain take, but a fact is a fact. And I feel like we're in this place right now where people are determining, you know, like this alternative fact type of thing. Like there's no alternative to a fact. A fact is a fact. And the fact of the matter is, you know, we have a race issue in this country that started back in 1619, you know?
So can I ask you this? Because you've been in political science. I'm pretty sure you noticed this as much as I did, because political science is studying history. People be like, how you know all this Black history? Not just I study it, but, you know, I do a little deeper dive in political science. Do you notice every time we have a social injustice issue, they start bringing up all these great Black historians and bringing up their quotes, but not realizing, wait a minute, listen to what they said. Listen to what Maya Angelou said. Listen to what the Dr. King said. Listen to what Malcolm X. Listen to what these people said. The cries of the unheard. And he's like, well, they burning down buildings. As Black people, let me speak for all Black people. We don't want to see no buildings burned down. We don't, but we get it.
But, right.
Because
that's the fact of the matter. You know, people can say what they want to about it, but you know, do we want to see our communities torn to pieces? No. Heck no. But the cries of the unheard, just like you said, when people have been oppressed to a point where they just can't be oppressed anymore, where that pressing has just finally hit a point, people are going to do what they have to do to survive. People are going to do what they do to survive, you know? And so I can't say I don't get it. I can't say that. You know, I can't say I don't get it.
And people ask me that question because, you know, they was like, well, because that whole Kings and Queens conference, I was literally out protesting. I was like, y'all, I'm going out to protest.
Right.
And that whole time, all the speakers was like, go out and speak up for your community, but be safe. Your whole obligation is to make it home. And we understood that. But we also understood we don't wear the crown. We don't have vice president of SGA, secretary, whatever position you want to have, and not have a stance in these things. Because us as HBCU students, we're still an HBCU student.
And we have
Yes,
we have a very important role to play in moving the needle forward. You know, we talk about how any great movement, you know, students have led it. Young people have led these movements time after time and time again. But HBCU students, we have to be at the corner of these movements because we know firsthand. We see it every day on our campuses. We see it show up with the funding that we don't receive from states, state legislatures. We see it in how we're treated. We see it in how our buildings are funded and our education is funded and how the access our students have to different opportunities. We see it firsthand every single day on our campuses. And so when we're talking about being civically engaged, HBCU students have always been and will always be at the corner of that because we still experience another deeper level of oppression even within. I think there's like commonly a misconception that we don't feel it because, you know, for 4 years, you don't have to feel like a minority, right? You don't have to succumb to some of those things because you are surrounded by so much culture, and that is the beauty in an HBCU. In the same breath, you still feel those outside pressures that weigh in and affect the everyday operations of your universities. And we have no choice but to stand up for those things, right? So, and we have to do that for future HBCU students, to keep HBCUs alive, to keep them at the forefront, to continue to fund them. So yeah.
So let's get in there. Ooh, I'm just gonna say the topic. And I don't. Your facial expression is gonna tell me how you feel. The Capitol storming. The Capitol storming. Who's to blame? What would happen if it was us? All that wonderful stuff.
Child. Let me just say this, Charles, and I'll leave it like this. Privilege is a heavy thing. And when individuals are able to navigate through life out of a place of privilege, anytime that privilege is threatened, we can see horrible things happen, you know, and I think that we've seen that over the last year and a half, you know, where, you know, privilege has been threatened or privilege has been challenged, whether it be through this global pandemic that we've been facing, having to come face to face with the idea of even privilege being a thing for you, right? And all of these just different things that challenges people, and it can be tough. So I feel like that's how we get where we are. I think also our last leader or whatever he was, he really allowed for people to really walk into some of the poor and just, I don't even know how to explain it, just the nasty feelings, the nasty words, the nasty comments, the nasty feelings as it pertains to marginalized communities. Allow them to really walk into that boldly and strongly, and then still relate that back to a place of patriotism, which makes sense when we're talking about issues like the new Jim Crow, because like I said, it continues to repeat itself. So do I feel like Black people were surprised? No. I feel like it was just where privilege allowed for that to happen, and a leader who supported that allowed that to happen as well. And yeah, I mean, personally, I remember watching CNN and just watching it and not surprised, because I figured there had been people that had got to that point, but for a lot of people were actually surprised. There were a lot of good people at home just completely surprised at what was going on, but that's what happens when privilege goes too far. So yeah.
And you know what? As I was watching it, I kind of, the first thing I said, because, you know, me being a black brother, I said, now, if I would have called about 2,500 of us and said,
Yeah.
hey, y'all, let's go on ahead. And
yeah. I mean, there was a complete difference in how
we wouldn't have made it. We wouldn't have made it.
We saw Black people protesting during Black Lives Matter peacefully, and still, you know, just being, what's the word? Just being harassed, being, you know, people getting shot and killed, people just having all types of just issues, just our community just being under attack for peaceful protesting, because people see Black skin as an attack before we even open our mouths, and people listening to the cries that we are spewing out. But white nationalists can storm the Capitol, break open windows, barge in, go sit on the Speaker of the House's desk with your legs crossed, holding a Trump flag, and not go to jail. Nothing happened. Even
and that's
just the
thing, like, and that's the thing. Like, I wasn't even shell shocked, because I just was like, okay, we ain't, this ain't shocking, this ain't. But what it made me realize was, and I told my nephew this, please understand, listening to people is important. Because they listen to this man, and people's like, well, he don't have a base. Y'all found out that day that the Capitol was stormed, his base was for real. And everybody want to say, oh, well, he didn't have a base. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. They went and did that because he told them to, you know? And so, I mean, that's just kind of is what it is. But, I mean, was I surprised? No. But you can, I mean, even in the amount of individuals that they had, law enforcement officers to protect, they weren't even prepared. But let us be up there. I mean, they got the whole nine, like, strapped, you know, for a peaceful protest. They weren't even prepared. And it was sad. And still, the entitlement that still, you know, the
National Guard was called off.
But there was
how that happened.
Literally, but there was still entitlement even in the rush to the Capitol. You know, you got people sitting up here talking about, oh my gosh, I'm hurt, my eyes burning, all this stuff. You're storming the Capitol and you still want sympathy? Like, it just blew me. The physical representation of democracy that we all talk so highly about. I don't know, I just feel like you can't claim yourself to be this patriotic person or patriotic individuals and then still, you know, go storm a Capitol like that. Put a lot of, you know, Congress people in danger, threatened the sovereignty of our nation's capital, like inside of the nation. It's insane. It was it's a rough day. It's a rough day.
So,
but that was also, and it's crazy. I mean, it was a lot of people, but it's still not, it was a lot of people, but it was still a small amount of people compared to like everybody, you know?
And people like, well, why didn't y'all go do something else? Why did y'all sit there and watch it? Because half of the country was shut down. So what else was we supposed to do?
Yeah, and
most of us.
I don't feel like that was Black people's fight.
Right.
That wasn't our fight.
It wasn't. We was just at the crib. First off, if you was like me, you at the crib like, look at these.
I was
Well, I
like,
can't say what, what we were saying at the house privately. We can't. What's that?
I was like, what is going on? But like I said, I wasn't surprised.
No, not at
That's what
all.
the administration led up to, you know?
And that goes right into, the voting rights and the election and Black America on voting. Um, Things that I know that you are strongly about, and stand firm on, because we know the fight that Black people have had with voting. And I have Black people, just like I know you have Black people. Why I gotta go vote? Why is it so important? Well, hold up before you get mad at me for telling you to go vote. I'm not forcing you to do nothing. I'm going to give you the history of what I know as a Black person. I'm not going to tell you what side to pick either, because that's not my obligation either. I'm
Right.
just going to tell you to go vote. But when you have that pushback, um, from Black America on voting and the election and things like that, how do you feel? Because we fight for this every
Yeah.
day that we go sit in a Senate or the House or even at
Yeah.
the city council meetings. We fight for this.
Yeah.
So that pushback that you get, how do you feel?
Well, at this point, I I've always tried to come from a place of resignation, I guess, when I'm dealing with people, because I try to understand the pushback first, you know. I try to
Hmm.
meet people where they are. Um, Relational art organizing is kind of what I'm rooted in, because I feel like you have to meet people where they are to get them where they need to be.
Yes.
And so I try to meet people where they are. A lot of people are just, honestly, they have a big distrust in government, you know. And as Black people, I can understand that, you know. I can understand that. But them pointing them to, okay, well, what are you passionate about? What would you like to see? What is it that bothers you so much? You're mad because you don't have a grocery store and you're within a mile of your place. Well, you know what? You got to vote locally for that, you know? And just
Mm.
bringing people, making it real for them, making it more local, because those national elections, we get hyped about those, but those local elections are what really matter, because that's what's impacting your everyday life. Uh, Teaching people that, you know, I worked in a senator's office and I realized even more so how accessible they are to you. You just have to call, you know? You just have to
Hmm.
call. And honestly, you know, I'm from Atlanta, so I've got to point people to Georgia. You know, I saw what hard work, what organizing, what mobilizing could do. And I believe that that can happen all across the South. I believe that it can happen in Mississippi. I believe that it can happen in Alabama. I think it can happen everywhere. I believe that. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some hard work. But I believe that, you know, we have the power. We have more power than we think, as a community. We have a lot more power than we think. And we have to really garner that power. We really have to mobilize around that power. And I think when we can really realize the power that we possess, in the idea that the percentage of people that we are, even with all the things that are against us, you know, people not having their voting rights, people being incarcerated, you know, immigrants, all types of things. As a people, we have enough sway to sway an election.
Hmm.
We have enough impact in our spheres of influence, regardless of what people look like, where they come from, to swift things. And honestly, um, I just believe that people in general are better, than what we give them credit for. And I think people want to make good decisions. I think people want to do the right thing. I think people want to see this world go in a better direction. I want to see society go in a better direction. And that's just people in general. And so we just got to mobilize. We got to mobilize. We got to talk to people. We got to get out there. We got to, you know, we got to get active. And
And,
yeah, go ahead.
and that's one of the things, and that's so beautiful that you said that, because like I tell my nephews, stand for something, because because when it comes down to it, what do you stand on? What is your foundation? Even when you're voting, what is your foundation? What are you
Yeah.
standing on? What are your core values and things like that? And so for Black America, I tell them, I'm not going to tell you to vote for Joe Biden. I'm not going to tell you to vote
Yeah.
for whoever the Republican is. I'm not going to tell you to vote for the independent. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you to stand firm on
What you
what you
believe
believe
in.
in, on
Vote for
what
your
you
interests.
believe in.
Yeah, and I think us as Black people, we really have to do that. So I think sometimes we can get so caught up in a party. And personally, right now, my the party that I'm aligned with is the Democratic Party because they
Mm-hmm.
reflect my interests, the interests that I do have. But I feel like if anything, what political science has taught me is that you have to vote for the policy. You
Yeah.
know, you need to look at the policies, understand what you're voting on, understand the people that you're voting for and what they stand for, and if what they stand for aligns with because if you're not educated on who you're voting for, what you're voting for, that ultimately impacts your life. And
Mm.
so you got to be very careful about that.
So it's something that I want to see happen. I don't. I know you want to see it happen, but just on that voting and elections and seeing the power in women empowerment, because I love seeing it. Having a mom that was in the military and her being so high up in the military, I love women empowerment. But do you see a woman getting elected president too? Because I want to see it. I definitely want to see it happen.
Yeah,
But do you see it happening soon?
absolutely. I feel like we're in a different place. I feel like we're moving in a different place. I believe, we're seeing a lot of strides happen. So we saw the election of Barack Obama some years ago as the first African American man to serve in that, position. His election obviously and definitely, without a doubt, made way for someone like Kamala to even step into the role as vice president as a Black woman. And I think the role that Michelle Obama played as well definitely allowed people to see a woman in
Mm,
power, a Black woman in power, and what that looks like. And so I think that was great. I think now with Kamala Harris, we're seeing what a woman can do in power, what a Black woman can do in power, what a South Asian woman can do in power, what an HBCU graduate can do in power, what a D9 member can do in power. We're seeing a lot of what different groups of people can do in power. And so, without a doubt, I think that we'll have a woman. I know that we'll have a woman as president before you know it. I'm excited to see who runs next year. I hope she runs, not next year, but the next term. I hope she ends up running. That would be great. But, we'll see.
and,
We'll see.
and so and that is and people say, well, that's the George Floyd effect. And I said, no, 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 no. I said Black people, brown people, Latino, however you want to call it, have always been wanting these positions of president, vice president, governor,
And
senator,
capable. It's just you
and
have to be given the
capable.
opportunity and be welcomed in the
Exactly.
space.
Exactly. That's like the Supreme Court justice. Everybody was like, "Oh, she the first Latino woman." I'm like, "Well, y'all, all she needed was the opportunity." And Barack
Yeah,
said,
she's
"Hold
been
on."
capable. She's been qualified.
And, and Barack said, "Hold on, y'all. Y'all giving me all these names. I want her right there. She good. I want her." And that's the thing. You got to give people these opportunities, and that's what I tell even at HBCUs. Give these students the opportunities to whatever their craft is. If it's speaking, podcasting, doing a poem, give them the opportunity there. So when we do get out in these spaces, like you say, we don't feel like, okay, we're not going to be accepted. No, we're accepted already because we know we can do the craft.
Right.
And that's why I love the fact that I see these people in politics and things like that. And seeing you guys, it was like, wow, like last year, seeing all you guys talking about, oh, yeah, we political science. We want to go to law school. We want to be lawyers. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, they get it. They understand. They understand. And so one of my last questions, of course, Vice President Harris, What does her election mean for not only Black women, but again, women in general running for election, but also just people aspiring to be vice president or a
Yeah.
CEO? How do you feel seeing her, especially being from an HBCU, being in a D9, a sorority at that, with everything like that? How do you think her vice presidency gonna change the way people see not only HBCUs
Um,
but people that come from there?
it already has, you know. I just remember just being so excited about the kickoff before inauguration. They had like the whole kickoff was like, you saw it, like the whole
HBC
kickoff, it was so black. Like I loved it. It
look
was,
like a
you had the
cookout, didn't it?
yes, you had
Look
the
like he was at a
HBCU
cookout.
at a cookout, yeah, on the yard. It was, you had the HBCU band, you had the sororities, the fraternity stepping, you had you just had culture, and so I was so glad that that was televised and that she was able to bring her community with her and allow for everyone that may not be a part of that community to have entry into it and to see, you know, what it's talking about. So I think that that was great, and just to kind of wrap that up, I think more than anything, like I said earlier, she allows many people to see themselves in her. Whether you're a woman, whether you're a person of color, whether you're a woman of color, whether you're a student at an HBCU, an aspiring congressperson, an aspiring vice president, an aspiring president, whatever it is, she has taught people to dream big, to not stop at the first thought and no, because she could have stopped after she didn't win president. But that is the
Yes.
grit. It's the grit. And I think that's very representative of what, you know, Black women have to do all the time. You know, she ran for president, but she kept going. She knew what her ultimate goal was. Her ultimate goal was to get to that White House, and she didn't stop. And she could have stopped, but she kept going, and you know, got nominated to be vice president elect, running mate with Joe Biden, and finished the drill. So
Mm. And you know, it's funny that you talk about her losing because I watched the interview with former President Bush and how he was talking about. They asked him a question about, well, who do you see running for president or vice president? And he said her name. And he said, well, I spoke with her after she had lost and told her to keep going. And they kind of just, the interviewer just gave him that look
like,
like, you a whole Republican, bro.
but
Like,
see, that's
and and he said, what y'all don't realize is it's not about Republican or
part
Democrat.
right.
It's about the job. She does a good job. She knows
Job,
what she's doing.
and that's what I've learned to appreciate. And me and my dad talked about that, you know, because George Bush just seemed to be pretty supportive of the administration, you know, in certain
Hmm.
aspects or whatever. And I think that that's good, because we are living in a very partisanship, like high partisanship times, and ultimately, you know, the goal is to get as close to a common resolve as possible. And when you have so much partisanship
Yes.
and so much left and right, it's hard to come to a goal that's ultimately going to be great for the people. And so, my wish and hope and prayer is that those high levels of partisanship can start to come on down, and that we can start getting real change done instead of just saying, I'm just going to vote this way just because this is what my party's doing. Instead of really looking at the policy, going back to that, looking at the policy and saying, okay, how does it affect my constituents? How does it affect the American people? And does this make sense? Not is this a Democrat or Republican problem, but how is this going to affect people as a whole? So,
Mm. Well, first off, let me just say before we end, thank you,
yes.
because what you don't realize is you are a big influence to me. Seeing
Aw,
your YouTube channel, everything that you do, I love watching. I always try to stay locked in on what you're doing,
thank you.
especially when I first met you last year. You was like, "Yeah, I do a YouTube channel." I'm like, "Wait a minute, this." I was like, go
Wait a
ahead.
minute.
I was like, wait a minute, because I'm trying to, do my own speaking thing too. And you say, well, let's stay connected. And so
Yeah.
being able to stay connected with you and seeing what you're doing and seeing all from the graduation YouTube video that you did, I said,
yes,
y'all, she
we
love
got more
y'all,
coming,
but she
okay?
ready to get up out of there. She got her next journey to go. She'll see y'all at homecoming.
There we go, okay?
But I just want to say, just from a distance, I appreciate what you do. I'm always like, oh, let me see that. Okay, I see what she doing there. Let me try that out.
Thank you.
So I definitely watch from a watchful eye, and you are one of the people that I'm always like, okay, let me see how she's speaking to the people. And then I saw one of your videos where you was like, hey, I'm trying to cut down on 15 minutes. So now when I watched that video, I said, let me go back and watch it again and take some notes. And then I said, okay, I'm going to start locking in and doing that too. So then I know I'm on a timely frame. So those couple of things there. So I tell people, you never know who's going to influence you. It doesn't matter the age, the generation, because people be like, you 29, you got 21 and 22 and 23. Yes, I have them influencing me, but what y'all don't realize.
I'm the same way. My mom says it to me all the time. Like I have, friends that are younger than me, older than me, the same age as me. It's all good. You need everybody.
Yeah, and so, and that's the thing. And like I tell people, first, I'm an educator at first. I'm always a lifelong educator. I love learning. Even though I ask from the classroom hard and mind and leave me. So I greatly appreciate your friendship, being able to, just reach out to you and talk to you and be like, hey, let me ask you this, let me do this. And seeing how you stood up for Black justice last year and those type of things, so even for your school, because it's difficult. People be like, oh, what's it like? At the end of the day, when you're in student leadership, I said, when you're in a room by yourself, it's a struggle. Because you cry by yourself, you don't sleep, because you got all these issues and questions and people calling you, well, why they ain't doing this at school? And why you ain't saying this? And it's just like, I just want to be me for a second. And sometimes I tell people, we just want to do that. So I thank you for that. I definitely thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I thank you for, first and foremost, just for inviting me on here. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you for your support and your friendship. Like, I love getting a little DM from you, just connecting with you on social media, just seeing everything that you're doing. And you just keep doing what you're doing, because these conversations are what take people to the next level, what get people's minds thinking. I love watching conversations like this, engaging in conversations like this, just because it gets your mind thinking. And when you can start to see life and issues and opportunities from the lens of somebody else, that's how you grow too, So I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
Yes. Y'all, I know the hour is late. She a Carolina girl now, so Carolina folks, we try to go to bed early because we got to get up early for work, We still country folk. Now, don't get it twisted. Y'all see my country slang done came out. I done cut all the proper stuff off now.
Listen.
I'm country slang. Listen here, y'all. But we appreciate y'all for joining us beneath the surface. Godspeed be with you. May your family and your friends be safe, and your haters too, because we all got haters. Till next time, we'll see you again. We out of here. See you.
Peace.